What makes a good guitar great? In fact, what even makes a good guitar? Well, there must be 1,000 YouTube videos about this subject, but let me tell you something. They're all wrong. Or at least they don't have the same point of view as me. By which I mean that, in my opinion, there are three and only three things that I consider truly essential when I'm thinking about a guitar. So let me try to change the way you think about guitars forever, while simultaneously annoying the YouTube guitar community. Sound like a plan? Here we go. In this video, I'm going to show you my favorite guitars and a ukulele, explain why they're so exceptional. I think Barbie might have had pink gloss, and reveal for the first time the three secret factors you need to consider when thinking about any guitar. Are you wearing the guitar, or is the guitar wearing you? So I've owned and played a lot of guitars over the last 40 years. Gretsch's, Fenders, Gibsons, Foxes, special editions covered in plastic drum wrap from the 1960s, miniature ones for traveling. I've had 6 strings, 12 strings, solid bodies, semi-hollows, steel-strung acoustics, nylon-strung classicals, and a ukulele. Some of them have cost thousands. Some of them, like the ukulele, have been a little cheaper, but one of them has been the standout winner. Why? Was it the brand? The pickups? The feel of the neck under my hand? The wood? Well, I'll tell you. In fact, I'm going to show you. I've picked the 3 best guitars from my collection, which are amongst the best I've ever played. And I'm going to explain what makes each of them great in their own way, because they're all quite different, but also what they have in common. And then right at the end of this video, I'll tell you the 3 secret things that I think matter more than anything else when considering guitar. And in doing that, I might just change the way you think about guitars altogether. But before I get started, I want to give an honourable mention. This guitar didn't make my top 3, but it's very special to me, and it's actually the only one I've ever played on a YouTube video. You might recognize it from the video I did about the glitter glam drone sound, and as a couple of you guessed, it started life as an Aria Pro 2 Night Warrior. It was made in 1986 and was built in the now legendary Matsumoto Guitar Factory in Japan. Nowadays, everyone understands those guys made excellent guitars. This was the original promo poster.
The challenge is on. Winner takes all. You play for keeps, and only the strong survive. Master the challenge with Night Warrior, and let the triumph be yours. Night Warrior from Aria.
Yeah, despite all of that 80s nonsense, it really was and is a very good guitar. It's strong because of the way the body is constructed, very stable, and had excellent factory specs straight out of the box, including a graphite nut and a Kahler vibrato bridge. As you can see, I've ripped out and replaced all the electronics, and currently it has a single boutique red humbucker and a simple volume control. But what makes this guitar so useful is that it forgives me when I abuse it, and I abuse it a lot. I'm constantly doing things that put stress on the neck and body. One day I'll put huge baritone strings on it, the next I'll string it up like a banjo. I'll raise the height of the strings to play slide, then I'll drop them super low to play shred. I'll remove every other string, then experiment with using 6 identical strings. I'll try setting fire to the pickup to induce special effects using a power tool, or cut the strings with scissors while feeding back through a loud amp. Anything to get a new sound. And this guitar always forgives me, which is a testament to the fundamental quality of its build. I inflict the worst of my experiments on this guitar because, well, I don't want to set fire to the others. So that's my honourable mention guitar, or my number 4. It's my best art and experimental instrument. Thank you for putting up with my constant nonsense and for your continued service. But let's go to the real winners, and let's start with my number 3, and it couldn't be more different to that. Now this guitar is quite special. You probably won't recognize it, but it started life as an Aria Pro 2 Night Warrior. It was made in 1986 and was built in the now legendary Matsumoku Guitar Factory in Japan. Nowadays, everyone understands that those guys made excellent guitars. This was the original promo poster.
The challenge is on. Winner takes all. You play for keeps, and only the strong survive. Master the challenge with Night Warrior. Can let the triumph be yours. Night Warrior from Aria.
Yet despite all of that 80s nonsense, it really was and is a very good guitar. It's very strong and stable because of the way the body's constructed, and it had excellent factory specs straight out the box. A graphite nut and a Kahler vibrato bridge. Now this guitar's had some colour changes. It's currently oxidized copper green, which goes very nicely with the actual copper shielding, all of which matches the 9-volt battery. It looks great under lights, and it makes my green eyes pop. I keep this guitar in standard tuning and use it exclusively to play clean funk rhythm parts. So if a track needs something like Nile Rodgers or maybe the session work of J.J. Bell, this guitar comes out, usually plugged directly into the desk. This is a vintage active EMG pickup from a set I bought in the late 80s, and it sounds like glass. Sometimes I swap it out for a Fender USA Strat pickup, which also sounds really good, though different. So this is my number 3. It's my best single coil, clean, standard tuning guitar. And it's better than anything else in that category I've ever played. Now my number 2 is a little different. In fact, it couldn't be more different. Now you probably won't recognize it, but this guitar started life as an Aria Pro 2 Night Warrior. It was made in 1986 and was built in the now legendary Matsumoku Guitar Factory in Japan. Nowadays, everyone understands those guys made excellent guitars. This was the original promo poster from the 80s.
The challenge is on. Winner takes all. You play for keeps, and only the strong survive. Master the challenge with Night Warrior, and let the triumph be yours. Night Warrior from Aria.
Yeah, despite all of that 80s nonsense, it really was and is a very good guitar. The paint's been stripped back, which is not generally something I approve of unless I'm doing a gig in a natural environment like a garden centre or a forest. But it means that you can see that the body is made from multiple pieces which are glued together with adjacent grains opposing. Rather than being a cost-cutting measure, this actually makes the body stronger and more stable. And it had excellent factory specs, including a graphite nut and this very complicated looking Kahler vibrato bridge that sort of looks like a racing car engine. Now this particular one has been upgraded, so it has an additional feature. I can lock it in place so it becomes a fixed bridge, and that's actually what I've done here. So if it's fixed, what's the point of this complicated bridge? Well, let me tell you. As well as playing in a lot of unusual tunings, I also use something called a capo. And that device clamps over all of the strings to raise the pitch of the whole guitar, so that when you play chords and
voicings
using open tunings, you can do things that wouldn't be possible without the capo. The trouble with capos is that they pull the strings sharp and they pull the thicker bass strings sharper than the thinner treble strings. This is just physics. The best capos like this one let you apply as little pressure as possible to minimize the impact, but the tuning's still off. So on a normal guitar, you would then have to, with your tuner, adjust the tuning using the pegs and effectively tighten the string the wrong side behind and through the capo. It's not impossible, especially with a good capo like this one, but it's not ideal. A better thing to do is to have a system whereby you can make microscopic adjustments to the string tension, the correct side, the pickup side. And that's where this bridge comes in. It has micro tuners, which for every string let you make tiny adjustments to each string's tuning after you put the capo on. It's got 2 Seymour Duncan humbuckers, a single tone and volume, and I can coil tap the bridge pickup. This guitar is specifically set up for what I call 57 tunings, usually D57 543, also known as Spanish tuning or open G tuning or Spanish open Keith tuning. But because it's got a fixed bridge and it's so stable, I can easily and quickly put it into any tuning I want. So this is my number 2. It's my best fixed bridge guitar, and it's actually the best fixed bridge guitar I've ever played. But it's not the winner. And the winner has been my favorite for 40 years, ever since I've owned it. It's a total workhorse. I've recorded with it so much, gigged with it so much, and it's completely different. And it's this. You probably won't recognize it, but it started life as an Aria Pro 2 Night Warrior. This was the original promo poster.
The challenge is on. Win takes all. You play for keeps, and only the strong survive. Master the challenge with Night Warrior, and let the triumph be yours. Night Warrior from Aria.
Yet despite all that 80s nonsense, it really was and is a very good guitar. It was made in 1986 and was built in the now legendary Matsumoto Guitar Factory in Japan. Nowadays, everybody understands those guys made excellent instruments. It's very strong, very stable, has a graphite nut and a Kahler vibrato bridge. It has a very flat fingerboard, which I appreciate, having come from classical guitar, and it's narrow enough for my small hands to completely wrap around. I bought this in 1986 from a session guitarist who was playing with a well-known 80s pop act, and he was endorsed by Aria, so he probably got this one free. And that's possibly relevant because guitar companies often take extra care to make sure their endorsees get really good models. Having said that, I'm fairly familiar with the Aria Pro 2 Night Warrior, and even though this one is the best I've played, there's not a lot in it. This guitar is specifically set up for a tuning called D75 435, also known as Open D, but I often put it in slightly more exotic tunings like D77 325, C77 374, E flat 73 432, and so on. Putting the guitar in so many tunings with a vibrato bridge means that I need the tuning stability to be super stable. And that's where this guitar really excels. Most tuning problems actually occur because the tension isn't stable at the headstock. Either the string gets stuck in the nut because there's too much friction, or it's not wound properly around the tuning peg and is liable to slip. This guitar's standard graphite nut and upgraded locking tuners pretty much eliminate both of those issues. But it has one more trick up its sleeve. Look at the way the strings pass in an almost perfectly straight line from the bridge right up to the tuning peg. This means that there is no sideways friction on the nut and even less opportunity for the string to stick or bind. Now, this guitar is finished in high gloss piano black, which is very flexible and means I can wear it with anything from a formal tuxedo to my pajamas. Although being English, my pajamas in fact have a print of a formal tuxedo on them. All the electronics and scratch plate have been completely ripped out and replaced several times over the years. Currently, it's got 2 Seymour Duncan humbuckers, both of which can be coil tapped and put in or out of phase. This means I can get not only great rock, rhythm and lead sounds, but also the classic Strat position 2 or 4 sound, which is 2 single coil pickups out of phase. It's got a single tone and a single volume control, and I usually take the knobs off to stop them being knocked. And there's also a kill switch. Originally I had an arcade style red button, but apart from it being a bit noisy, it killed when pressed, whereas I wanted the other way around so I could tap out rhythms. So I swapped it out for this switch. And finally, there's a battery powered preamp, which gives me a clean boost of 12 dB, which at full power makes the signal about 4 times stronger before it hits the first pedal or amp. I've set it to about 70%, which means that even through my compressor, it's enough to kick my amps into overdrive. And it's got a nice blue light, so I know when it's on. But the bridge is my favorite part. This is a vintage Kahler Flyer from the 80s. Unlike most vibrato systems, yes, you can adjust string spacing, height, and intonation individually. And yes, it has micro tuners, which are great for nailing perfect intonation when recording. But the standout is this camshaft design, which was invented and patented by Gary Kahler in 1980. It means that you can dive or raise the pitch with the arm, but the bridge itself stays fixed, which means that I can still palm mute and chug aggressively without the bridge moving. Something that you can't do on a floating bridge system. So this is my number one. It has other things that I love, like the way the body shape feels really comfortable, or the fact that I can pick it up and throw it around by the top horn. And as I said, it's my total do anything, never let me down, feel great, sound amazing guitar. So those are my favorites, the best in my collection, and honestly, the best I've played out of a lot of guitars. My honourable mention experimental guitar, a single coil, clean standard guitar, that's my number 3. A fantastic fixed bridge guitar, that's my number 2. And my number 1, a do anything, sound great, never let me down guitar. They're all different, but they all have a few things in common, which over the years I've realized I need. And let me focus on 3 of them. First, and most important, tuning stability. A guitar is a machine, and if it doesn't stay in tune, then it's not really fit for purpose. Yet today, you can pay thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars for a top-of-the-line guitar where the G string isn't stable unless you recut the nut. Or a guitar that needs an extra gizmo on the headstock just to guide the strings through the nut correctly. Well, being a guitarist that plays in a lot of alternate tunings and capo positions and uses a vibrato arm, I need more. Locking tuners, a graphite nut, a headstock design where the strings go straight through, and a bridge with micro tuners. So tuning stability. Second, and also most importantly, droppability. A guitar is not a museum piece, and in my opinion, it should be reasonably rugged, a bit like a guitar pedal. I want to be able to wear it while wearing a belt and not worry about scratching the back. I want to be able to hit it while wearing a sharp ring, scratch my watch on it, use it as a shield when people throw bottles at me. I don't want it coming apart in my hands when I hit it really hard. I don't want the bridge to fly off. I don't want the nut to pop out, and I don't want the strings to come out of their saddles. In short, it has to be well built, solidly constructed, and above all, droppable. I've dropped all of my guitars quite a lot, and they've fallen over quite a lot, especially my number one, since that's the guitar that's been played the most. It's got gouges in it, lots of scratch marks, some of the frets have been replaced, but it's always been okay. And I've never freaked out because, well, it's not a museum piece. So droppability. And third, and also equally most important, colour. I have a friend who buys and sells an awful lot of guitars and basses. And whenever he sends me a picture of his latest target, I always have the same question. What are you going to wear with that? Solid colours are easy, provided they're not metallic. Glitter too. But wood grain showing through some sort of coloured finish or sunburst, what on earth would one wear? A sunburst shirt? Maybe in Hawaii? And then there's the question of, are you wearing the guitar or is the guitar wearing you? If it's a Gretsch or
Duesenberg.
then the guitar is probably wearing you, and you'd best wear black or something formal just out of respect. But other than those two brands, you're probably wearing the guitar, and you should select the finish as though you were selecting any other item of clothes, like a shirt or a pair of trousers. Just think about a grand piano for a moment. It looks great in high gloss black, which is why we call it piano black. Some Vegas performers favor white gloss. I think Barbie might have had pink gloss piano, and in my opinion, pink gloss is an excellent finish for a guitar. But a sunburst piano? What would you wear? Likewise, guitar straps. I prefer black straps because it's very slim in color, but I've been known to wear fake fur, glitter, and leopard print. But wide brown leather or heavy embroidery with the guitar brand should be avoided unless you're playing in a remote rural community. Straps like that are not appropriate for polite company or your home, and certainly not on stage. So there you have my top 3 things that I consider: tuning stability, droppability, colour. I often modify my guitars, so I look for an excellent fundamental build with things as standard that are either hard or expensive to change. I don't worry too much about the tuning pegs, the pickups, and electronics, provided that the fundamental construction is good, which for me includes the nut, the design of the bridge, and the geometry as the strings pull through to the tuning pegs. You may notice that I haven't mentioned price. Well, you can pay anything for anything. And I've certainly bought beautiful guitars for many thousands of pounds, yet none of those has made it to my favourites list. In fact, none of the 4 guitars I've shown you in this video cost more than £200 to buy, not counting the upgrades, which admittedly often cost quite a lot more than that. But when it comes to guitar electronics, I would be the first to admit that although I have a personal preference for high quality pickups, great guitar tone really starts at the microphone in front of the speaker cab and then works its way back through the amp and pedals. Put it another way, I'd much rather have a cheap guitar with an expensive amp and good pedals. Provided, of course, that the cheap guitar stays in tune, I don't freak out when I drop it, and I know what to wear. Don't forget to like and subscribe, or join the new mailing list. Thanks for watching. See you next time.